stand this man. He seemed scared of me now, but that could change at any moment. Winston's moods swing up and down in the most unexpected ways. I tripped on the blanket that was dragging across the floor. I caught myself with my hand on the bed to stop myself from falling. My white-knuckled grip on the blanket did not loosen. Jasper gasped and rushed over to me. His calloused hands were rough against my skin as he grabbed my arms. He pulled me away from the bed, but his movements were too quick. I stumbled and fell into the side of his body. He let go of one of my arms and wrapped his arm around my side. His hold was tight, causing an explosion of pain across my bruised ribs. I yelped, and Jasper let go of me. His movements were too sudden, and I fell to the floor as he stepped back. My outstretched hand broke my fall, and pain shot through my wrist. I gritted my teeth and focused on my breathing as I waited for the pain to subside. "I'm sorry," Jasper said. "Did I hurt you? Why did that hurt you?" "I did not mean to hurt you." He stepped in front of me and crouched. It was an attempt to lower himself to my level, but he still towered over me. I looked up, but my hair hung over my face. If I took my hand off the floor, I would crumble, but if I took my hand off the blanket, my body would be exposed. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked. "How do I get you standing?" These were a lot of questions. Winston rarely ever asked me a question. Everything seemed like an order or a command. I glanced over at the bed. My hair shifted so I could see the dress he had pulled out of the closet. I needed to get clothes on. After taking a few deep breaths to push away the remaining pain in my ribs, I lifted my hand off the floor and held it out toward Jasper. "My sides hurt," I said. "My ribs are bruised." Jasper nodded and grabbed my hand. Seeing how small my hand was in his caused a chill of fear to run up my spine. Winston's abuse was bad enough. How would I ever survive this man's anger? He used his grip on my hand to pull me up, and I fell into his hard chest. His smell of dirt, sweat, and grass filled my nose. I could hear his breath catch in his throat as he grabbed my shoulder and pushed me back. My feet stumbled from his awkward movement. His hold remained on my hand as he stared down at me. "I need to put on the dress," I said. The blue fabric bunched at the end was taunting. I was so close to escaping from this nakedness. "What do you need me to do?" Jasper asked. Why was he asking me so many questions? "I need you to leave the room for 10 minutes, I said. "No," Jasper shook his head. "I was told I cannot do that. Please." I hated how small my voice sounded. Jasper bit down on his lip and shook his head again. Before I could make another plea, he dragged me to the end of the bed. He looked down at the dress and then back at me. He swallowed hard before letting go of me. Luckily, I was able to stand without his support. "Go ahead," he said. I squeezed my eyes shut and mumbled a few of my mother's prayers to myself. I had to expose myself in front of Jasper. Whatever happened here, I would have to lie to Winston about it once I left. If he survived Miles's brutal attack, he would be furious. He would blame me for all of this. I should never have poured my beer onto Winston's lap. I turned my back to Jasper before I let the blanket fall from my shoulders. I moved as quickly as I could to change into the faded blue dress. The material was tight against my hips and my chest, but I was able to fasten the buttons. Jasper was silent as I put on the clothes, and I did not look behind me to see if he was watching. I took a few deep breaths and ran my hands over the skirt to calm my pounding heart before turning around. A deep crimson spread across Jasper's cheeks as he chewed on his lip. Maisie said their family was secluded. Had he been around women before? Was that why he had been asking so many questions? "Thank you," I said. I hated that I was thanking him for a basic necessity, but it was better than trying to fight. Jasper cleared his throat again. He ran his hand along his jaw, but his gaze did not leave my body. "Why do you have so many bruises?" he asked. "Did my father do that to you?" "No," I said, hoping I did not need to elaborate. He took a step forward, and I took a shaky step back. He stopped when he noticed my hesitation, his head cocked to the side as he raised a brow. "Are you scared of me?" he asked. Unsure what to say, I just stared at him. My brain was still in too much of an exhausted haze to understand if this was a test. If I told him I was terrified, it could encourage him to come after me like I was helpless prey. If I lied and said I was not scared, he could potentially see it as me being defiant. My lip throbbed as I remembered not being able to control my temper. Winston hated it when I tried to stand up for myself. I never gave Jasper an answer before he grabbed my arm and pulled me out of his bedroom. His strides were wide and caused me to stumble a few times. Ache spread through my sore body, making me grit my teeth. I looked around the narrow hallway as I heard voices from downstairs. The faded wallpaper was peeling around the edges, but everything else in this house seemed immaculate. There was not a single speck of dust on any of the wood surfaces, and nothing seemed out of place. Jasper pulled me over to a large staircase. I held on to the banister to stop myself from tripping on the steps. Jasper noticed I slowed down and let go. He shoved his hands into his pockets as he went down the final steps and into the kitchen. I kept a tight grip on the wood as I slowly followed. Maisie was piling dirty dishes into the sink, and a stained apron covered her dress. A boy who appeared a few years younger than myself was leaning against the counter. He was smaller than either of the two men and looked much more Maisie. His eyes were brighter and his hair was lighter. Spots of acne stretched across his cheeks. A novel was in his hand as he spoke to Maisie. He stopped talking when he saw me come down the bottom few steps. Maisie looked over at me, and her smile softened even more. "Belle, it is good to see you up," she said. "Jasper, I made you each a dinner plate. Please make sure she eats." Jasper took a quick look over his shoulder at me as I stepped into the kitchen. My steps faltered when I saw the thick metal bars across the kitchen windows. Were they planning to lock me in this house like a cage? There was a back door that did not appear to have any bars. Jasper walked over to the wooden dining room table. Two plates piled with meat, potatoes, and vegetables sat across from each other. Jasper sat at the table and began digging into his dinner. He glanced up, making me realize I had stopped moving and was standing in the middle of the kitchen. The other man was also silently watching me. "Belle, have a seat," Maisie said. "You should eat while it is still warm." I swallowed past the lump forming in my throat and nodded. The nausea did not leave my stomach and would not be able to eat, but I did not want to make any of them upset. I forced myself to walk forward and sit at the table across from Jasper. He did not speak to me as he ate. There was a slight furrow in his brows while he watched me. I was unable to maintain eye contact and looked down at the food. My hand trembled when I grabbed the fork. I pushed the food around the plate and prayed they would not force me to eat. I listened as the pots and pans clanged while Maisie cleaned the kitchen. I had not seen Miles anywhere since leaving Jasper's bedroom. The memory of Winston thrashing and screaming kept flashing through my mind. My finger felt empty without my wedding ring. Winston would be furious to know they had stolen my ring. What did they do with it? When Jasper finished his dinner, he put his elbows on the table and ran his hand along his jaw. I was unsure if I preferred this silence. At least his questions distracted me from thinking about Winston. How long was he lying on the ground in pain before someone found him? Was he trying to find me? I jumped when a hand touched my hair. My heart pounded as I turned to see Maisie behind me with a hairbrush. She pulled my hair over my shoulders before brushing out the matted knots. "Jasper, you know she needs to eat," Maisie said. "What do I do?" Jasper asked. "How do you force someone to eat?" Maisie let out a deep breath. She continued to brush my hair. Her fingers were soft when they grazed across the edge of my ears and the base of my neck. She began twisting my hair into a braid without saying anything to me. She was treating me like I was a porcelain doll. "Belle, your dinner is going to get cold, and you cannot be wasting food," she said. "I am not hungry," I said. "You need to eat," she said. "You need your strength." Why would they want me to be stronger? I struggled to stay conscious since Miles forced that rag over my face. Why would they not want to keep me weak and vulnerable? After Maisie finished securing my braid, she trailed her fingers over my shoulder before walking away. I let out a shaky breath before spearing my fork through the slice of meat on my plate. My stomach twisted into a tighter knot as I lifted the meat off the plate. Nausea was crashing over me like a heavy wave. My hands shook, causing me to drop the fork. I squeezed my eyes shut and rubbed my stomach to calm myself. "I can't do it," I said softly. "I don't feel well." I kept my eyes closed and focused on my breathing until I heard the sound of the plate scraping across the table. I expected him to be pushing the plate closer to me as a warning. Instead, he was switching our plates. The empty one was in front of me, and he was eating my dinner. "Don't say anything to them," he said. "I am only doing this once." I nodded, relieved none of them would be forcing food down my throat. He was eating my dinner faster than his own, which almost made me sick to watch. There were multiple times he glanced toward the back door. Did he think I would try to run while he was eating? After finishing my dinner, he wiped the back of his hand across his mouth. The nausea swirled in my stomach, and looking at Jasper made it worse. There was a click before the door hinges creaked. I turned to see Miles come into the kitchen. A chain was dangling from his hands. My eyes widened as I watched him lock the door from the inside. A key was on the end of the chain, which he then secured around his neck. A metal chain was also poking past the collar of Jasper's shirt. He has locked me into this home. I was trapped in their cage. My thumb ran across my finger, but it reminded me that my wedding ring was missing. A sharp pain shot through my chest. What was this family going to do to me? Miles so easily hurt Winston. Would they kill me? I pushed myself away from the table, making the chair screech across the floor. Jasper stood, but neither he nor Miles stepped closer to me. I held my trembling hands out as I took a step back. "I need to go," I said. "No," Miles said. "Sit back down." I shook my head as I took another step back. A crease formed between Miles's brows. The first crack in his blank expression was anger. "I was never going to make it out of this house, Belle," Miles said. "Sit back down." I shook my head. If I spoke, I would break down into tears. Crying was not going to get me out of this house. Miles looked over at Jasper, who was watching me with wide eyes. His hands were pressed against the tabletop as he leaned forward. "Bring her upstairs," Miles told him. My head spun as I took another wobbly step back. Going upstairs meant being in Jasper's bedroom, and I could not let that happen. My first night with Winston was the night I lost my virginity. Winston was always so rough, so thinking about how Jasper would grab me made an icy shiver run down my spine. I could not let that happen. Winston would never forgive me if I had been with another man. "No," I said. My voice cracked, but there were no tears. "I need to leave. I am already married. My husband is going to be wondering where I am. You think he is still alive?" Miles asked. The color drained from my face as my heart felt like it shattered into a million pieces. Before Miles forced the rag over my face, Winston was alive. There was so much blood and screaming, but he was breathing. What had Miles done to him once I was unconscious? How did he kill him? Winston was abusive, but he was all I had. If he were now gone, I had no one. Why are you doing this? Tears rolled down my cheeks. A sharp pain ran across my split lip with each sob that I was no longer able to hold back. How could you kill him? He did nothing to you. He was hurting you, Miles said. That doesn't concern you. I was unsure where I found the strength to shout. You cannot do this to me. You cannot keep me here. This is sick. I gasped for breath, but I was unable to control my crying. I hastily wiped the tears off my face. The confirmation that Winston was dead sat like a heavy weight in my chest. How long did I have until they killed me? Maisie, bring me the tranquilizer, Miles said. I turned to see Maisie standing in the corner of the kitchen. Did she come in when I started screaming? Her lips were parted, and her hands were clutching her chest, but she nodded. She would probably do whatever Miles ordered. If they forced that rag over my face again, I would slip back into unconsciousness. If I were stuck in that darkness, I would not be able to fight back. I would be a helpless doll forced to do whatever they liked. Jasper thought of me as his wife, and the thought made my stomach twist. I could not fall asleep because I could not wake up unaware of what had happened to me overnight. Maisie rushed out of the kitchen. My knees were shaky, but I needed to push myself. I needed to stop her. I did not get far before arms wrapped around my waist and knocked me onto the floor. I screamed as I scrambled to get back to my feet. The man's grip moved to wrap around my chest and pin my arms to my side. I expected it to be Miles holding me down, but I looked up to see it was Jasper. Get off me. I jerked my body, trying to escape his hold. My fighting against Winston had always been useless, and I was even more helpless against Jasper. He was stronger. Each movement caused a new pain to bloom in my bruised body. Let me go. Maisie returned with a bottle and a rag. I screamed and thrashed as she handed them to Miles. Jasper was not going to let go. I twisted enough in his hold so I could turn my hand. My fingernails latched into the flesh of his arm, and I dragged them back as far as possible. Jasper hissed out in pain. Warm blood bubbled against my fingers. Another hand grabbed my shoulder and pulled me back. The disgusting rag was forced against my face. I held my breath and turned my head to the side in a desperate attempt to protect myself, but it did not work. I slipped back into another unconsciousness. Sunlight was pouring into the bedroom when I finally woke. My body ached, and my head throbbed. A terrible taste filled my dry mouth. I groaned as I rubbed my temple with a trembling hand. The room was silent. I looked around Jasper's bedroom to see that I was alone. My hand ran down to my chest, and a soft material was under my fingertips. Someone had changed me into a white nightgown. What happened to me once I fell asleep? What did Jasper do to me? I needed to get off this bed. My strength was coming back to me quicker than the previous morning. Did they use less tranquilizer? I was able to move and get myself to the edge of the mattress. My hair was still in Maisie's braid, but strands had escaped and were hanging in my face. My knees wobbled as I stood, and my feet shuffled as I moved toward the closet. The same blue dress was hanging in the closet, and I changed into it as fast as I could manage. The clothes were a small way to protect myself. I needed to get out of this house. They killed Winston, and they would probably kill me. If I did survive, my life would be subjected to torture and cruelty. They have already forced me unconscious twice. Any attempt to get out would be better than subjecting myself to being the docile and submissive wife they expected. Miles had locked the back door, but this house had to have other doors. They could have forgotten to lock one of these doors. I was unsure where I would go, but I needed to try. The floor creaked under my feet and echoed through this large farmhouse. I cringed with each noise, but there was no scattering movement downstairs. No one was rushing to stop me. Was any of them inside? The kitchen was empty. I tried the back door again, hoping they forgot about the lock because they thought I would be unconscious all day. The handle did not turn, and I sighed. I needed to find another door. I wiped my sweaty palms on the dress as I walked down the hallway. The front door came into sight, and I hurried forward. I grabbed the handle, but it did not turn. I pulled harder on, but it still did not move. Gritting my teeth, I pushed my shoulder into the door in a desperate attempt to open it. If this did not budge, I would have to shatter a window. The windows downstairs were blocked with metal bars, but the windows upstairs were not blocked. Would I break my bones if I jumped? Would I survive the fall? Bell. My heart pounded as I spun around and pressed my back into the door. Maisie was standing in the hallway with a broom. How long had she been behind me? Did she watch me try to open the door? She had her same soft smile, not seeming mad to know I was trying to leave. "It is good to see you up and dressed," she said. "Let me make you something to eat." "Why are the doors locked?" I asked. I knew the answer, but I wanted her to admit it. Maybe she would hear how crazy it sounded, or maybe she would slip and accidentally tell me a way out. "It's for our safety," she said. "It protects us from outsiders." "Outsiders?" I asked. "Come with me to the kitchen." She ignored my question. "You need to eat. We do not want you to get sick." How many days had it been since I had eaten? How long ago had I been in that tavern with Winston and his friends? How much time had been stolen from me each time Miles forced the rag over my face? I needed to eat if I was going to maintain any kind of strength, and Maisie seemed like the least like a threat. I nodded, and Maisie's smile grew wider as I followed her into the kitchen. She set the broom against the wall and gestured for me to sit on a dining room chair. I refused to sit, but she did not argue as I crossed my arms over my chest and leaned against the counter. She hummed as she fried 2 eggs. The smell made my stomach grumble, and I was glad I did not fight against her breakfast offer. I glanced out the window, hoping to see something useful through the metal bars. The farm had a large barn, which blocked most of my view. None of the men were visible. How far away were they? "How does your lip feel?" Maisie asked. The pulsating throb in my bottom lip had not disappeared, but the pain was not my biggest concern. "It hurts," I said. "The pain should disappear before next week," she said. "I have had my lip injured like that before." "Miles hurt you?" Maisie shook her head as she giggled. The sound was too light and sweet for this terrible situation. "Miles has never hurt me," she said. "Before I came here, I was alone and men treated me like prey. My life was lonely and full of abuse and pain until I met Miles's father. It was like a miracle. I was given another chance." I furrowed my brows. She said the word so casually as she placed the eggs onto a plate. "Miles's father?" I asked. "Yes, Joseph." She handed me the plate of eggs and a fork. "Please, sit down and eat. Can you sit with me?" "Of course." Maisie's smile grew wider. She was not an ally, but she was someone I could get answers from. She was not the same type of threat as Miles or Jasper. However, she would probably report to them every word I said. I needed to be careful. She sat across from me, and her elbows were on the table as she leaned forward. The eggs were surprisingly delightful in my empty stomach. I had to slow myself because of the pain in my lip. It also gave me time to think of questions that would give me information without angering any of them. "How did you meet Miles?" I asked. "You met his father first?" "Yes." Maisie nodded. "I came into this family the same way you did. Joseph saw how terrible my life was, and he knew I deserved better. It all seemed so scary at first. I woke up in this house confused because everything was so different. Very quickly, I learned that this was my loving family and they would always protect me. Different is not always bad. Why did Miles bring me? We wanted to save a girl, just like how Joseph saved me. She leaned in closer. Haven't you always wanted to be a wife and mother? I already have a husband. Maisie shook her head, but her smile did not disappear. Belle, look at yourself, she said. You are covered in bruises. A man that hurts you like that does not love you. I struggled to swallow the last mouthful of egg. Miles would have never seen Winston hurting me if I had not thrown a fit in the tavern. If I had stayed quiet and smiled like he had warned me to do, none of this would have happened. Jasper is so much better for you, Maisie said. He is a very sweet boy. You have not had the chance to spend much time together, but I promise you will love him. What happened last night? I asked. My heart pounded as I tried to push away the thoughts of what happened to me once I was unconscious. Other than the headache, my body did not feel any different. Had Jasper forced himself on me? What had he done to me when I could no longer fight? You were being quite emotional, Maisie said. We needed you to calm down, so we did what was best. You needed the rest. Are you going to do it again? I asked. The boys only do what they need to do, she said. If you stay calm, they will not have to use the tranquilizer. I let out a deep breath as I nodded. Tonight, I would need to control myself. I was never going to get out of here if I stayed unconscious. My first step to freedom was staying calm and keeping them happy. Throughout the day, Maisie had me help her with various chores, which let me explore the house without seeming suspicious. Maisie stayed close beside me, so I was unable to check if any doors were unlocked. My headache had disappeared by the time Maisie had me help her cook dinner. She had me peel potatoes while she prepared the meat. She kept glancing over at me, probably making sure I was not trying to hide the knife. It was a weapon, but I doubted I could take down these huge men with such a small blade. Maisie asked me many questions about my life while we were cooking, but was avoiding any questions that would involve me speaking about Winston. When I talked about my parents, she seemed genuinely interested. No one ever seemed to care when I spoke about them. She told me about how her parents died when she was a child, and she was only able to avoid an orphanage because of her grandmother. It was odd to have such a common connection. Dinner was almost done when the back door opened. Jasper walked into the kitchen, and his shirt was streaked with mud. I held my breath and turned against the counter. He glanced at me wide-eyed like I was a wild animal when he went over to the stairs. Simon, who Maisie talked about being her younger son, was close behind him. Neither of them locked the door. Before I could move, Miles stepped into the kitchen. He saw me staring at the door, but no emotion showed on his face when he pulled the chain off from around his neck and locked me in the house. Miles said nothing as he walked past me and over to Maisie. She was slicing pieces of the roast she had made. Miles put one hand on her hip and the other on the counter, blocking my view of her with his large body. He leaned in closer as if he did not want me to hear them speaking. Tonight will be better, he said. I think so too, Maisie said. I swallowed past the lump forming in my throat. I ran my hand across my temple, reminding myself I needed to be calm. It was easy around Maisie, but these three men could easily hurt me. Simon was the smallest of them, but even he would still be able to overpower me without struggle. The stairs creaked as Jasper came back down into the kitchen. I squeezed my eyes shut and tightened my grip on the edge of the counter, trying to push away the fear bubbling up in my chest. I needed to be calm. I need to speak to you for a moment, Maisie said. I opened my eyes to see Maisie looking up at Miles with a smile. He nodded and stepped back, but his hand did not leave her hip. Simon came down the stairs with a novel tucked under his arm. He walked over to the table without looking at us. Jasper was standing off to the side, watching me as he chewed on his lip. He had changed out of his dirty work clothes. "Jasper, please put the meat on the table," Maisie said. "You can start eating. We should be down soon. Please make sure Belle eats something." "I will," Jasper said. Maisie grabbed Miles's arm, and they went up the stairs. She was going to tell him everything we talked about while doing chores. Thankfully, I said nothing bad about the family or mentioned leaving. I pressed myself further into the counter as Jasper came forward to grab the platter of meat. My knuckles ached from my tight grip. He furrowed his brows as his gaze trailed down my body. How apparent was my fear? "Did you tell them I ate your dinner last night?" he asked, keeping his voice low. I shook my head, and he let out a deep breath. The tension let his muscles relax, causing his shoulders to lower. Was he also scared of his parents? "Are you going to eat tonight?" he asked. I nodded. If I spoke, I was unsure if I would be able to control myself. Once my pounding heart calmed and the tremble disappeared from my body, I could speak without worrying about crying. Jasper turned and carried the meat over to the dining room table. I wiped my sweaty palms on my dress before forcing myself forward. Last night, Jasper was so easily able to pin me to the floor. Without a struggle, he could drag me around the house to wherever he wanted. Jasper and Simon were sitting across from each other at the table. Simon had his novel open and resting on the edge of the table. Jasper pulled out the chair next to him. It was a silent command for me to sit, and I obeyed. Simon looked up from his book to stare at me. Both of them were watching me like I was a creature they had never seen before. I tried to spin my wedding ring around my finger, but my heart sank when I ran my thumb over my empty finger. "Did you eat anything today?" Jasper asked me. I nodded again. Jasper sighed before piling food onto my plate. My nausea returned when I saw how much food he was giving me. How was I supposed to eat it all without being sick? "Does she speak?" Simon asked. "You didn't hear her screaming last night?" Jasper asked. I took in a sharp breath, and my thumb ran over my bare finger again. I needed to be calm tonight. Would they do something worse to me than the tranquilizer if I continued to scream? Would they murder me? The reminder that Miles killed Winston made my heart pound even harder. This family was evil, and they would hurt me without hesitation. I heard the screaming, Simon said. I am not used to hearing it inside the house. Jasper filled his plate with dinner before pushing the platter of meat across the table. Simon closed his novel and grabbed the food.